Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc. My name is Brandon, and I'm joined here with Tyler.
Hello.
Today we are going to give our predictions for each of the UEFA World Cup qualifier finals. So if that sounds interesting, let's hop right into it. So we are down to the wire here. There's only 6 spots left for the World Cup. In another video, we talked about the 2 Interconfederation Cup final playoffs. Today, we're going to talk about the 4 UEFA spots that remain. They had each mini tournaments here. Pretty interesting to watch up until this point. Now we have just these last 4 games left. We're going to look at each of these games, how these teams line up, their path up to this point, and of course, our score predictions. So without further ado, let's get into the first matchup we have here.
All right, so the first match, and arguably the most anticipated, is going to be Italy versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. This one, Italy, this could be their 3rd straight World Cup missed. While at the other chance, Bosnia, it's probably going to be Dzeko's last World Cup. They do have some young talent in Mumorovic, who is the Italian, who's playing in Serie A, the center back. They also have a decent team. We'll see how this one turns out. Italy just came off beating Northern Ireland 2-0, thanks to goals from Tonali and Keane. While Bosnia 1-1 draw that went to penalties, in which they ended up winning on penalties. This one's going to be very interesting because it is hosted in Bosnia, which I've seen the pitch. It's an icy pitch right now. It's a match that I could see in Italy unfortunately fumbling. We tend not to do good in these elimination matches when the pressure's high, especially with the conditions not being the best. I'm hoping, and maybe a little biased here, that we won't. I think it's going to end up being 2-1, I think, to Italy. I think they have a better team on paper. I think Gattuso is not going to allow them to mentally crumble like they have in the past, and it's going to be an absolute disappointment for the country as a whole, as well as football, not to see Italy in the 3rd straight World Cup. While Bosnia is a great team, I think they're just on paper outmanned, and we will see some of that just come to fruition in this match.
I agree. I think, I'll admit this Italy team, not very good. I hope it don't offend you by saying that.
It's not.
I don't think they're very good, whether it be on paper or their results. That being said, they are better than Bosnia. Not that Bosnia's a bad team. I thought that in their last match against Wales, it was a heroic effort to get that comeback win there. Edin Dzeko, underrated striker, always popping up. He will be a threat in this game against Italy. But if you look at just compare the squads between the two teams, Italy's clearly better. Bosnia has some areas where they can damage Italy, but overall, I think there's only one winner here. It will be very close, though. As you mentioned, Italy has fumbled at this stage for the last 2 World Cups. They have fumbled. This current crop of players has fumbled in knockout rounds. They're not the most reliable. You don't really feel comfortable watching these guys play. And there's not really a lot of game changers as well. There's a few, but not a whole lot. But at the end of the day, I think it's almost impossible for Italy to miss 3 World Cups in a row. It's a little unreasonable. I think they'll pull through. I don't think it's going to be easy at all. I'm going to say 1-0, a goal in extra time or something like that. Really chippy, scrappy goal after a really scrappy game. I don't think it's going to be the most beautiful football on display. But at the end of the day, Italy will do just enough to get the job done, in my opinion.
I definitely agree it's going to be a scrappy game. I think all the controversy going around right now with the Italy national team, where they were cheering when Bosnia made it, whether you believe what DeMarco said or not, is going to fuel Bosnia. Along with the weather conditions, I think it's going to be 2-1. And as you said, I think that other goal will come in extra time. I'm hoping at least.
Yeah. Obviously, Tyler here, Italian fan. He's Italian American. I do think it's very possible for Italy to bottle it, though. I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be the most surprised. Just, if you look at the history of this team, it's been a while since they performed well in a knockout round tournament. Obviously, Euro 2020, but since then, if you want to count like the Nations League and stuff like that, this is not the best crop of Italian players that we've seen. So.
Yeah, and the pressure on them is massive.
Very
Even Gattuso said if Italy does not make the World Cup, he's moving to a country where no one will ever see him. It's that bad, and it's even worse if you're actually living in Italy right now where everyone has that much pressure on you. And none of these players have shown that they're the type of mental fortitude to deal with pressure.
All right, so the next matchup we have here is another very exciting one, another close one as well, arguably a little more close, at least in terms of the talent that either team can put out on the pitch, and that is Poland versus Sweden. The battle of the strikers, Lewandowski versus Gyökeres. Poland, up until this point, I thought that they had a decent run in their group, and then in their semifinal here, they played Albania. It's a very back and forth game. I thought that Poland was a better team. They ultimately deserved to go through, but Albania did open the score, and Poland had to come from behind. And Albania did have a lot of chances, even if Poland overall was the much more aggressive team, the team that created a lot more chances. On the flip side, though, you had Sweden, and this is a very interesting situation we have here where on paper Sweden is one of the best teams in Europe. Just up top you have two of the best strikers, maybe not on form, but two of the best strikers in terms of talent in Viktor Gyökeres and Alexander Isak. And yet they could not get the team to work together at all in their group. They actually finished bottom of their group, and the only reason they got to this playoff is because they did just enough in the Nations League. So take with that what you want if you think that's a little unfair or not. But it seems like they're kind of clicking into form. Graham Potter came in October, and it took him a while to finally set in with his style. Things look to be on the upward, though. They absolutely annihilated Ukraine in the last game in the semifinals. Now, you can make an argument that that score is a little lopsided because Ukraine did not play well at all. You can say it was more so on Ukraine playing poor. That is a valid argument here, but the fact of the matter is Viktor Gyökeres scored a hat-trick, sending Sweden to this final against Poland. And honestly, this one's really tough to call. I realistically can see it going either way. I am going to side with Poland, though, even though Sweden played far better in the previous game than Poland did. And also, Poland leaves himself open on the back a lot. They gave away a lot of chances to Albania. And a better team, or a team with better strikers, such as Sweden, can capitalize on that. But I think that Poland, they're a team that they show up every tournament. We saw them play well at the last World Cup, the last Euros. They're always there. This crop of players has tournament experience, and the Sweden team doesn't. They're very volatile, very up and down. I think that'll be just enough to send Poland through. I think it's going to be really tight, though. I think this will go to extra time as well. I'm going to say 3-2 in favor of Poland. I think there are going to be a lot of goals. I'm hoping this is a good game overall as a neutral as well.
I do agree. I think this is going to be a very tight match for, as you said, Lewandowski versus the new the new Swedish strikers in Isak and Gyökeres. I do slightly disagree. I think Sweden will be the ones to come through in the end. I think just on paper, their team is much better, and it's a team that on paper should not be in this qualifier. They should have already qualified. I think it will be very tight, though, as I said. I think it's going to go to penalties, 2-2, and Sweden will go through in penalties.
Yeah, like I said, I can very realistically see either team going through. Where it's a hairline margin here, just because Poland has more tournament experience, I'm going to side with them. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Sweden go through in the manner that you just explained. But anyway, now let's move on to the third final. We have Turkey going up against Kosovo.
All right, so for this one, Turkey came off of a 1-0 victory in their last match. They did not, against Romania, they did not do too much, but they kept getting unlucky. Yildiz had a couple where it should have been goals, hit right off the woodwork. Arda Güler had that insane De Bruyne-esque pass. I am a big fan of that young duo, and when you throw in the midfield of Çalhanoğlu and a couple other young pieces, I think they will have enough to go through on this one. I think it's not going to be as close as some people are saying. I do think just Turkey's midfield is really good, and it's going to set them up very well for the next decade or so. I have this one being a simple 2-0 victory for Turkey.
Yeah, I do agree that ultimately Turkey will go through. Turkey's a very interesting team, very volatile as well, more so volatile than Sweden we were talking about, where, if everything goes well for Turkey, they can arguably beat anyone in the world. They have some of the most exciting youth players in their team and overall very talented squad. But sometimes when it doesn't work out, you can see them just completely collapse. So it'll be a question of which Turkey shows up in this game against Kosovo. Kosovo is a team that has never qualified for any tournament ever. Granted, they're a brand new country. And they have a decent squad. Marici up top can do some damage. And as we saw in their last game against Slovakia, I believe, they did score a goal. They scored 4 goals. They won 4-3. So they are an attacking threat going forward. And Turkey's not the most defensively strong team. So I do see Kosovo grabbing a few goals. But at the end of the day, for all the reasons that you mentioned, I think Turkey is just much more talented. I think they will ultimately go through. I'm going to say 4-2 final score. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this game as well. But there is a clear talent gap between Turkey and Kosovo here. And then also, Turkey is a team that has such a high ceiling versus Kosovo. I think this is as good as it gets, I'm going to say. So I agree. Turkey's going through.
Yeah, if Kosovo wants a chance, we need to see the Zhigrova of Lille. He has been in awful form this year for Juventus, and he's going to be their difference maker if he can find form.
I agree. But I'm with you. I'm siding with Turkey on this one. So anyway, we have our last matchup here, the last of these 4 finals. We have Czechia going up against Denmark. A relatively even match, you can say. I do think this is a little more straightforward than, for example, the Poland-Sweden one. But you have 2 good teams, 2 solid teams. They're not amazing, but they're also, we're not talking about some of the bottom feeders here in UEFA or anything like that. No disrespect to any of those countries, though. We have Czechia, who just came off of beating Ireland. It was a super tight game. Ireland went up 2 goals. Czechia had to come back. They had a goal in the final 5 minutes of the game, went all the way to extra time, went all the way to penalties, and Czechia just did just enough to go through. Not a phenomenal performance overall, but still, it was good morale, good momentum to get that comeback, and also winning in such dramatic fashion in that penalty shootout. On the flip side, Denmark played North Macedonia, and they completely flattened them. It was 4-0. Great performance from the Danish there. Of course, you can say North Macedonia is not necessarily the best opposition. I know you're shuddering in fear every time I say North Macedonia.
Yeah.
It's bringing back bad memories. But North Macedonia, not necessarily one of the top teams in Europe. Denmark, I will say, if all the pieces move together, they can be a seriously good team. As we saw in Euro 2020, didn't really work out in World Cup 2022. I think they kind of fell down to earth. But as Euro 2024 proved, they're a solid team. They have a good structure to them. There's a lot of very, very good players. Even if there isn't necessarily a world-class player anymore, there still is some very good players at the very least. More so than Czechia, I would say. So as these 2 teams line up, Denmark is a much more talented squad, but also they have a much more cohesive unit. And I think the momentum of coming off of just that easy 4-0 win versus Czechia, yes, the morale is very high, but it was a very tiring, very hard game to play against the Irish. The Irish did not make it easy for Czechia. So I think if you just look at, say, for example, the fatigue of these 2 teams, as well as the talent gap, as well as also just the experience. I mean, like I just mentioned, Denmark did pretty good at the last 2 Euros. They were at the last World Cup. I'm siding with Denmark here. I think it's going to be a comfortable win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm going to say 2-0 to the Danish.
I'm going to agree with you that it's going to be Danish win. I do think that they will let up a goal. I think Czechia did get kind of gifted by Ireland with that late penalty, which allowed them to tie it up. I think it kind of overinflated, and I think Ireland was a better team. I think that will show also in this match, but I think Czechia will do just enough to get a tap in or something light like that. But in the end, it will be Danish win.
Yeah. So we're in agreement on that one. Let's see. We both had Turkey going through. The only one that we disagreed with was Poland, Sweden, correct? And that one, honestly, it's 50-50. So,
yeah.
If you're in summary, we're saying that Denmark, Turkey, Italy, and then one of Poland or Sweden are going through to the World Cup there. I'm siding with Poland. You're siding with Sweden. Honestly, thoughts on this format, this new format of playoffs?
It's a long thing which we could do a different video of, but personally I'm not a fan of how they split it up. I think they kind of favored other regions in expense of others. Mainly, I think they did a little too much for Copa America, which I think they maybe should not have 7 teams going through and put a little bit more to the European teams, so you don't have these big teams like Sweden and Italy where they have some of the best players in the world not making it possibly. But all in all, I can't complain. It's the first year they've done it with this expanded lineup. Let's see how it goes, and hopefully we just have a good World Cup.
Yeah, I agree. I was very interested to see how they're going to do the allotting for the different regions for this new 48-team tournament. I actually disagree with you here. I think, if anything, Europe has too many teams. I mean, it's a World Cup. I want to see countries from around the world, not just the Euros, basically. But that's a whole discussion for another video. I personally really liked this mini tournament kind of thing. It's starting to give a preview of the World Cup. If you're watching this game on TV, you see the fans, you see these teams going up against each other in these big stadiums. It's giving it's giving you kind of the atmosphere, a little snippets of the atmosphere of the World Cup, little bits of a preview several months beforehand, before the tournament actually starts. So far these games have been pretty exciting. Nothing crazy at the very least, but who knows? Maybe the craziness will come in these games here. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to this video. I'm Brandon.
This is Tyler.
Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Put all your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think we're making some sense, or do you think we're not making any sense at all? We're talking nonsense. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. But anyway, guys, this has been the Football Bloc, and I hope you have a nice rest of your night.